Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. In today's video, we are going to learn operator method for solving a system of linear differential equations. For that, let us first understand the operator notation. This operator D, capital D, stands for derivative with respect to the independent variable, and this independent variable may be different in different scenarios. So D, capital D, is a notation. It's a symbol which stands for differentiation with respect to t here, or let's say x. It will depend, it will vary from context to context, but it's a symbol which differentiates. So in itself it does not have any meaning, but d, when acts on a function, it differentiates with respect to the independent variable. Similarly, d square differentiates with respect to the independent variable twice, and so on. D cube differentiates with respect to thrice. For example, if we make the symbolic operator d act on the function e to power t, it means it's going to differentiate e to power t once with respect to t. So it's going to be e to power t only, because we know that the derivative of e to power t with respect to t is e to power t only. But if we differentiate e to power 5t with respect to t, it is 5 e to power 5t. D square sin t. D square means you are to double differentiate sin t with respect to t. So sin t's first derivative will be cos t, and then the second derivative will be minus sin t. Similarly, d cube acting on 3 e to power minus t will be minus 3 e to power minus t, and so on. So once we understand these notations, what is d standing for, what is d square standing for, what is d cube, and in general what is d to power n standing for, solving a pair of given ordinary differential equations becomes very easy. We can rewrite the system, the given system, in the operator notation, and then the way we used to solve a pair of linear equations by equating the coefficient of one of the variables and eliminating it, and then solving for the other one, and then substituting back to get the first one, is the approach that we are going to follow here also. So let's learn this technique through certain examples. Look at the first one. It is dx by dt is 5x plus 3y, dy by dt is 4x plus y. So it's a pair of equations which are to be solved for x and y, and you can see that the independent variable is t here. So you'll get the answer of x in terms of t and y in terms of t. So whenever a pair of equations is to be solved, you always put the given system in the operator notation. Now what will this mean in the operator notation? D by dt of x. So if we denote the operator d by dt with the symbol capital D, then we can in a way rewrite this dx by dt as capital D of x. This term can be written as capital D of x, where d stands for d by dt. And then you have a 5x term, and then you have a 3y term. So what you do is you club together the terms involving x. So one is dx by dt, which can be written as d of x, where d stands for d by dt, and then minus 5x. So you have collected the terms involving x, and then rest of it is involving y. And similarly for the second equation, you do the same thing. It's minus 4x plus d minus 1, because this is actually d of y. If d, capital D, stands for d by dt, then this stands for d of y. So you can rewrite this as d minus 1 of y minus 4x equal to 0. So this is how you write your system in the operator notation after introducing the operator d and its meaning. Its meaning is generally with respect to the third variable, which will be the independent variable, and most of the times the notation is t in a pair of equations. Now it's very easy to solve such systems once you put them in this form, the operator notation form. You equate the coefficient of one of the variables, either x or y, by multiplying with the pseudo. You can see that the coefficient of x here is d minus 5, and the coefficient of x here is minus 4. So you can multiply the first equation with 4 and the second equation with the operator d minus 5, and then add them so that you can get rid of x and solve for y. So when you do that, the first one becomes 4 times d minus 5 of x minus 4 3s are 12, y equal to 0, and the second one becomes minus 4 into d minus 5 of x plus d minus 1 d minus 5 of y equal to 0. When you add this, this cancels out, and you are left with d minus 1 d minus 5 minus 12 of y is equal to 0, which simplifies to d square minus 6d minus 7 of y equal to 0, where d square stands for d2y by dt square. According to the operator notation, we know that d square of y stands for d2y by dt square, d of y stands for dy by dt, and then you have 7y. So that means after getting rid of x, eliminating the coefficient of x, adding the equations, the new equation is just an equation in y, and you can see that it's a linear differential equation with constant coefficients with right hand side as 0. So it's a homogeneous linear differential equation. So its solution will be obtained as y equal to yc, where yc will be written using the characteristic equation and depending on the nature of roots. So the characteristic equation you can see will be r square minus 6r minus 7 equal to 0. The roots are minus 1 and 7. Both are real and distinct. Therefore, yt has this value c1 e to power minus t. T is the independent variable. So mind it, you have to write. Don't write e to power minus x here by mistake. The independent variable is t here. So it's c1 e to power minus 1t plus c2 e to power 7t. That's the expression for y which you have got from this system. Now once you have got y, how do you obtain x? Now instead you can use either this equation or this equation, put the value of y and get the value of x. Now what is wiser, which one to use? Since x is unknown, so avoid using the equation which is involving the derivative of x, because x is something that you're looking for. So wherever x is free of the derivative, in whichever equation x is free of the derivative, try to solve for x from there, because you already know the value of y, so you know what dy is. You can differentiate this with respect to t to get the value of dy also. So always use that equation to find the second variable, in which the second variable is free of derivatives. If it is not free of derivatives, make it free of derivatives and then put the value of the second variable to find the other one. So let's see. From the second equation you can see that x can be solved as, it's d minus 1 of y taken to the other side divided by minus 4. So both the negatives cancel out. So it becomes x is d minus 1 of y divided by 4, which can be written as 1 by 4 of dy by dt minus y. But you already know what y is. So you know what is dy by dt. You can just differentiate it with respect to t. So this is dy by dt minus y. Simplify, you get the value of x like this, and you get the value of y as this in terms of t. So a and b put together constitute the solution. Now there's a note, very important note here. You will observe, see, the value of x and y which you got in the above approach looks like this, whereas in most of the books you will find that the answer has been given like this. You have to understand that this difference in the look, the final look of the answer is insignificant, because ultimately C1 and C2 are arbitrary constants. They are names given to the arbitrary constants by you. So what you are trying to say here is that the coefficients of e to power minus t in x and y, their ratio is minus 1 by 2, which is minus 1 by 2 in this case also. So if for y e to power minus t has got a c1 here attached, then it's minus c1 by 2. So the ratio is minus half. And here also you can see that the ratio is minus half for the coefficient of e to power minus t. And since c1 is an arbitrary name, so it does not matter what you're calling it. You can either call this one as c1 or this one as c1, and accordingly the other one will get adjusted. It's just indicative of the fact that in the x and y values, the coefficient of e to power minus t has got minus 1 by 2 as the ratio. If you take the coefficient of e to power minus t in x upon the coefficient of e to power minus t in y, then the ratio has to be minus 1 by 2, which is in both the answers it's the same. Similarly, here the ratio is 3 by 2 and here also it's 3 by 2. So they are effectively the same answers. So do not get misled. Your approach and the approach, see, you can either eliminate x from the equation or y from the equation. It's your choice. Now depending on what you are eliminating, the other one is going to have c1 c2 in its answer, right? And accordingly the second variable is going to get adjusted. So you don't have to worry about the final answer and the difference in the look of the answer. You just have to be convinced that the two answers, the one that you get and the one which is given in the book or any other material, they are the same provided the ratios are matching. So that's how you check whether your answer is correct or not. Moving on to the second question, again y1 dash. So you will put together the terms involving y1 in the d notation. So d here also stands for d by dt. So you put it in the d notation and you can see that the coefficient of y1 here is d plus 3, whereas the coefficient here is minus 1. So you multiply it with d plus 3, the second equation, add them. Once you add them, you get a linear differential equation with constant coefficients in y2, which can be easily obtained by calculating the characteristic equation, and depending on the nature of the roots, you get the value of y2. Once you have y2, how do you decide whether this equation is suitable for y1 or this? Obviously this is suitable for y1 because y1 is unknown right now. So we will try to find y1 from that equation which is free of d of y1, because otherwise you will be stuck. This will be easier because y1 can be easily taken to the other side, and it's just d plus 3 of y2, and since you know y2, you know d of y2, you know 3 times y2. So it's easier to find the value from the second equation here also, and it's just, you know, just a matter of a little calculation which leads to the final solution like this. Now there can be certain modifications to these problems. The third problem you can see is a big one, a slightly lengthier problem, because here the right hand side, the two problems, the first question and the second question, they had right hand side as 0. If you look at the operator notation, both of them were homogeneous equations. The right hand side was 0. So the solution was just y equal to yc. But here in the third question, the right hand side is non-zero, you can see. So the solution will not be just y equal to yc, you will have to figure out what yp is, and then you will have to, so that means it requires a little amount of extra work, because it's not just yc component, yp component is also important. So doing similar stuff here also, equating the coefficient of x and then eliminating, this is what the equation becomes. D plus 2 of y is equal to, so it has got a right hand side also, you can see. So the solution will have two components, yc and yp. Yc is easy because the characteristic equation has got just one root, r plus 2 equal to 0, so r is minus 2. So you get the characteristic equation and you get yc. But how do you get yp? Yp, in this you can either use the method of undetermined coefficients or variation of parameters, whatever you like. I think variation of parameters will be better here because it's a first order differential equation. Undetermined coefficients will be better here because it's a first order differential equation, and we learnt method of variation of parameters only for second order. So let's not go into variation of parameters, let's just try a trial function. You can see it's a simple situation because minus 2 is the root, which is the root of the characteristic equation, and it is not affecting any of the terms on the right hand side. So you just guess the normal trial yp and then do yp dash and then equate the coefficients of the like terms on both the sides. So you get the value of the coefficients and you get yp. Once you have yp, you know that yt is given by yc plus yp. So that's your solution that you get from the method of undetermined coefficients. So it required a little bit of extra work because you had to find out yp also for figuring out the first variable yt. Now once you have yt with you, how do you decide which one to use for finding out x? Both the equations have d involved. So what you do here is you subtract these two equations first to get rid of d of x, and then you will get minus 2 of x, and then using that minus 2x, so you can just simply add the given equations to see that it gives you an equation completely free of derivatives, and hence you can put the value of y which you had obtained in the above step to get the value of x, and once you have x and y put together give the final answer. So this is one modification which is quite popular in the exam, where they do not take the right hand side to be 0 but give you some function of t on the right hand side, so that you are expected to even calculate yp for figuring out yt. So that means for the first variable you had to do both the complementary function and the particular integral, and once you are done with that, it's easy to get the second variable. Now the second kind of modification which can come in such questions is that they can attach some initial conditions. So these questions are once you know, whenever the initial conditions are attached, then the conditions help you to find the values of the unknown constants also. So let's quickly have a look at the solution, doing the same approach as we did in the previous questions, eliminating one of the variables, finding the other one. Here luckily the right hand side is 0, so it's just the yc component which matters. The roots happen to be 1 plus minus iota, so it's alpha plus minus iota beta, a complex pair coming once. So it's e to power alpha t, alpha is 1 here, so it's e to power t c1 cos beta d, beta is also 1, so it's c1 cos t plus c2 sin t. So that's your y2. Once you have y2, how do you figure out which one to use as the y1 equation, obviously this one, because y1 is free here, so you can keep y1 on one side and take everything else to the other side, because you know y2, so you know d of y2, so you just do 3 minus d of y2, and after simplifying you get your y1 and y2 values. But these are not sufficient here. You need to do some extra work, because the question is not just a pair of equations, you have two conditions also given, so you'll utilize those two conditions to find the values of C1 and C2. It's given y1 at 0, so that means when t is 0, y1 is 7. So just put t as 0, y1 is 7. So 7 is equal to 2 C1 minus C2 into 1, and this will become 0 because at t equal to 0, sin t is 0. So you straight away get 7 is 2 C1 minus C2, and similarly when you use y2, 0 is 2. This is your y2. So 2 is equal to e to power t into C1 plus 0. So that means C1 is straight away 2, and once you have C1 as 2, you get the value of C2 also, and once you have C1 and C2, you put the values in 1 and 2. So your y2 becomes e to power t, C1 is 2, so it becomes y to t is 2 e to power t cos t minus 3 e to power t sin t, and similarly y1 becomes this once you substitute the values of C1 and C2. So that's how you solve for initial value problems if they are attached to a pair of equations. So basically the crux is, whenever the system is given, you convert the system in operator notation. Operator notation is the D notation. The D notation you will introduce, and then adopt elimination method that you have been adopting for solving a pair of algebraic equations. And then once you have one variable, you can get the second variable by simply putting it in one of the equations, whichever is convenient, and the convenience will depend on the fact that whichever equation is not involving the D with it for the second variable, that one is easier to use. So I hope the method is clear to everybody. If you like the video, please press the like button and share forward. Thank you so much for watching.